today, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a 2015 Subaru Impreza WRX STI. One of the longest names in the automotive world, but most of us car enthusiasts just call it an STI. Now, the 2015 STI has been a kind of good and a, well, kind of bad car for Subaru, it seems like. The 2015 STI has very subtle improvements. It's not one of those cars that really blows you away on the improvements. Like, it's not like it's a completely different car, because it's really not. Believe it or not, the owner of this car had another Subaru before this, but the car came with an engine mount loose from the factory. So that's comforting. The overall feel of the car feels like a Subaru, which is a good and a bad thing to me. The interior is nicer, but it's not that much nicer, and it's just so similar to the 2014s and even the old hatch from like 08 through that generation. It just kind of feels similar. Another thing is the motor's the same. The ECU is changed a little bit. They tune it just a little bit differently, and the suspension is much more firm and it's harder. So the car is faster by that much. But I know it sounds like I'm really hating on this car so far. I'm not, but I wish that Subaru did more with it. One thing I've noticed about in this STI is I've had a really hard time getting used to the clutch in this shifter. I think a big part of that is that I've been driving vehicles with much heavier clutches lately. So doing that has definitely had an effect on going back to a very stock feeling clutch. Overall though, the clutch is very light. The shifter though has this kind of rubbery feel to it. For example, when I shift into third, I know that I'm in gear, but it's not like 100% confident. It's kind of odd. Like, I go to third and then I'll go to fourth, and fourth feels more notchy than third does. One of the funny jokes about this new Subaru is introducing the Subaru Evo 10, because it has a very similar front end to the Evo 10 from Mitsubishi. I'm no stranger to turbo 4 cylinders and all-wheel drive. I love them to death, and you can get on it whenever, and you have that torque to get you by. It's not like a lot of other 4 cylinders where you're like, okay, where's my power band? So you can just blip on the throttle, and there it is. I love that Subaru came back with the sedan version of the STI. Don't get me wrong, I love the hatch. I love the hatch of the STI, but I think it's always the soul of a sedan. I love the bug eyes, I love the blob eyes, I love the hawk eyes. The Hawkeye was one of my most favorite cars I've ever driven. With that soul kind of back in this car, you know, it makes you smile. But at the same time, it feels bigger. But you know, it always makes you smile when you look in the rear view mirror and there's this big old wing on the trunk. And you're like, okay, we're in a Subaru. Some great things about the new STI. Comes with a boost gauge, comes with a nice center console in between your gauge pods. So it tells you your mile per hour, your mode, how many miles you have, what have you. It also tells you if you're locking the differential or not, whole 9 yards. The red line of this car is 7,000 RPM. And when you get to that power band, it's a good time. That's when you really start to feel it pull. Shutting down. That was nice. It did really good. It's very well composed. I went around a little bit of a bend. Did it like it was a champ. All right, shutting down. Gear ratios in Subarus are so short, so when you're in other cars or other performance cars, when you're winding them out, you just keep kind of going for the ride. But with Subarus and Evos in particular, you have to really be on top of your game for that next gear if they're still in the stock gear ratio. All right, that's something else too. Turning radius is really good. It's always been a funny fact about all-wheel drive cars that the turning radius has been garbage. So you'll go like all the way around and you be in a normal car and you just do the U-turn. So when you're looking at all these seats in the car, like I was saying earlier, you look behind you and you really do have plenty of room to bring people around. Even somebody as tall as I am, they're an average height. So they're not ripping you off on the 4 doors. Even though you do get the boxer growl, the car is insanely quiet. All you hear is wind noise. I'm in 6th gear right now, but even when you're wide open throttle, the car, you know, you do it. And I don't know, man, it is, and it makes a nice little turbo spool sound. You get a nice little whoosh, but it's not very exhilarating, if you know what I mean. I feel as though with a good aftermarket exhaust on this car, it would bring some personality to the table. Yeesh. That was a bad shift. The brakes on this car are unquestionably good. I haven't had one time when I've stopped after a wide open throttle and been like, oh boy, I need to slow down sooner than later. You can brake fairly late in this car. Oh my God, oh. Because rally car. It's so funny when you drive other Subarus that have been lowered and that sort of thing, you subconsciously go over speed bumps and bumps in the road at an angle. But with this on the stock suspension, it looks lower than it really is. So you can just go straight over them like a straight up rally car. Another thing is the seats in the car are much better than the older ones. That is something that is a drastic improvement. When it comes to being held in place, it's great. That was a weird little dance, but I'm held in place. And I gotta stop. That worked out. Okay, I just tested the brakes. Don't you hate that feeling when you see a yellow light and you're like, I don't know if I should go. I don't know if I should go. So I stopped. All-wheel drive cars, you always feel like you're being yanked. It's that kind of weird sensation. Another thing about the Subaru is that you have a bunch of buttons on your steering wheel, which you think would be distracting, but they're really not that bad. You don't really have blinkers or anything on the steering wheel, as many of us know in the car world is not a very good idea. What's great about this car though is it's fast, like it's quick, but it's not fast to the point where you can't ever get on it. Like I just did that corner back there and it got me a nice sensation to get me up to speed, but I was able to shut down very early and be fine. A good job. Even though I wish you did more to it, it's still a great car. Alright guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching this quick little review video. I hope you enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed driving this STI. I want to thank Anthony so much for letting me drive his beautiful Subaru. And I will see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a good one.